Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. All right. We ready? All right. You guys ready to worship? All right. Go ahead, Josh. I don't think this is the right one. Is this Our God? Wrong song. Try again. Our God. Thank you.
Water you turned into wine. Open the eyes of the blind. There's no one like you. None like you. And into the darkness you shine. Out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. None like you. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. Into the darkness you shine. Out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like you. None like you. Our God is greater. Our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. Our God is higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. Our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what can stand against? Then what can stand against? Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. Our God is greater, our God is stronger. God, you are higher than any other. Our God is healer, awesome in power. Our God, our God. And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what could stand against? And if our God is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if our God is with us, then what can stand against? What can stand against? What can stand against?
Lord, you are stronger. Yes, Lord. You are great. You are great. Yes, Lord Jesus.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. And all my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head down, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire, and in the darkest night, you were close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. Yeah. And all my life you have been faithful. Oh. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God.
will worship you, Lord, for all days because you have been good. Yes, Lord Jesus.
Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see beauty that made this heart adore you. Hope of a life spent with you. Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. King of all days, oh so highly exalted, glorious in heaven above. Humbly you came to the earth you created, all for love's sake became poor. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. You're wonderful to me. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me.
Father, you are worthy. You are worthy of all of our praise. We love you, Jesus. You've always been with us, and you'll never leave us, Lord. And we thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. God good? But don't forget, before he's good, what did we teach you? God is good. Remember? Before he's good, he has to be God. It's funny, every time I've been getting some of my lessons lately, they kind of have to do with things that go on in my household. Today, I'm going to give you guys a unique perspective on something. It's going to have a 3-part series. You guys, do you like when I do kind of little parts and you get more than one? Instead of trying to shove it onto one, I said, today, I entitled my sermon, Being Focused and Not Distracted. What I want you to know is that the enemy is going to come at you with 3 kinds of weapons. And the first one is he likes to distract you. He likes to lie, and he likes to discourage you. These weapons are how he gets you in the battle of life. But you know what? We have weapons that can counter every single one of them. Every one of those attacks. Guess how distractions are overcome by? Focus. Cece's yelling from the other room. Lies are overcome by truth. And discouragement is overcome by, do you remember that one? Hope. So today, we're going to talk about focus and not being distracted. John 10:10 says this, that the thief does not come except to steal, kill, and destroy, but I've come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. That's what he said. 1 Peter 5:8 says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Of these 3 weapons, sometimes he'll only use one. Sometimes he'll use all 3. Sometimes he'll only use 2. However many he may send your way, God's given you the tools and the resources to overcome them all. So, focus. Don't be distracted. Lately in our house, we've been having issues with focus. Not getting our homework done. It's because we're getting distracted. So I decided I wanted to look up the definition of to distract, distraction, and distracted. I put them all together, and it says something that turns the attention from something else. Confusion, madness, harassed, confused, insane, to draw away the mind or attention of, divert, to confuse or bewilder, perplex, to make crazy, someone or something that weakens your concentration on what you are doing. And I want you to know, distraction has been around for a very long time. Started in the garden when the serpent came and distracted Eve. You remember the children of Israel? That story of them getting ready to go in the promised land. They just came out of Egypt. God's been providing for them. Destroyed all the Egyptians. Did all this wonderful stuff. So what does Moses do? He sends in 12 spies. And Joshua and Caleb are so excited. And they're looking and they're seeing all this wonderful stuff. And they're probably best buds that had grown up forever. And they go in and they come back. And the story is they've had these grapes that were so big, it took the 2 of them to carry this big old bunch. They're like, man, we can do this. This is amazing. The place is flowing with milk and honey, just like they said. It's fruitful. Now, just so you know, we talked about what milk and honey. If there's milk, that means the animals are producing young. For them to produce young, they have to have enough food to eat. Now, if it's also flowing in honey, that means there are flowers. Flowers come from plants that produce. And when there's honey, the bees are running around pollinating everything, which means you're going to get more produce because when they're pollinated, then it produces the fruit that we eat. That's milk and honey. Yeah, and we get honey from the bees. They're like, look, let's go. We can take them. Look how wonderful the land is. God's given it to us. But you know what? They got met by 10 other people who got distracted. They were looking around at how big the people were. They said, we're like grasshoppers to them. We can't do this. So instead of listening to the 2 that had their focus on God, they listened to the 10 who were distracted by their size. That distraction kept them out of the promised land for 40 years. And just so you know, everyone who complained, except for Joshua and Caleb, didn't even get to go in after 40 years. All those who were distracted lost the reward that God had for them. Distraction has been around. One of the more famous ones is the story of Peter walking on water. In Matthew 14, verses 28 through 31. They were getting ready, they'd gotten in the boat, and Jesus wasn't there. And the storm comes up, and they're looking, and all of a sudden they see someone that looks like Jesus walking. It says, and Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. So he, of course, being Jesus, said, come. When Peter got down out of the boat, he walked on the water to Jesus. But, when he saw the wind and the waves, he was afraid. And he began to sink, and he cried out, Lord, save me. Immediately, Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Just so you know, Peter's walked on water 2 more times than you have. He was walking on water. Now, can any, besides if it's frozen, I can walk on water. But anyone here walk on water? Nope. But Peter, when Jesus said, come, what did he do? He looked at Jesus. He had his eyes focused. But what happened? He took his focus away. He got distracted by everything going on around him. Probably had a wave splash across his face. And all of a sudden he's like, wait a minute, I'm walking on water. I can't walk on water. And he starts sinking. Now, Peter probably did know how to swim. But this is a storm he's in. And in a storm, even the best swimmers can have a difficulty in the storms. Jesus stretched out his hand and brought him up. He says, why did you doubt? I'm like, I called you to come. I'm right here. Peter was distracted and took his focus off. I also want to tell you, did you know you can be serving Jesus and distracted? Story of Mary and Martha in Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 42. Now it happened when he, meaning Jesus, entered a certain village, a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she approached him and said, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me alone to serve? Therefore tell her to help me. Jesus answered her and said, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed. Mary has chosen that good part, and it will not be taken from her. I'm not saying that going to serve Jesus is not a good thing, but you have to know where your focus is. At that moment in time, it was important for them to sit at Jesus' feet. Yes, it's important to eat. There are times where you need to get away and you need to go eat. You need to get ready to, even Jesus got time away. But there are times when you need to sit at the feet of Jesus. Martha was so distracted. You ever been so distracted, even doing those things for God, that your focus gets off of God? Just so you know, Jesus was also tempted with distractions of things around him. In Matthew chapter 4, you have the temptation of Jesus, and I wanted to read this one little part. Verse 8 says, again, the devil took him up on an exceedingly high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to them, all these things that I will give you if you will fall down and worship me. Jesus said to him, away with you, Satan. It is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. He said, look at the world. Look at all these things around you. Now, just so you know, this was after 40 days. He hadn't had anything to eat. Some of us, we get after church and we're like, oh man, I got to go eat. I'm so hungry. Here Jesus was after 40 days, and he says, look at all the sparkly things. We get distracted by everything that's around us. Just look around. If you sit down to watch TV, how many commercials try to get your attention with all the wonderful food that's on there? Just so you know, do you understand how they make those commercials with that food? They shoot, actually, carbon dioxide. They use other things to adjust the food to make it look appealing and tempting. Don't eat food that they make from the commercials. It's not edible. They also have them. You ever see someone driving in a beautiful brand new car off into the sunset? You ever seen them? You watch movies with these beautiful houses? All these commercials, or even the clothes commercials, and the models walking up and down. They want you to buy, get a new car, get a new house, eat this food. They even have ads that tell you, hey, want to lose weight? Want to look younger? Look at this, look at that. If you get this, guess what? You'll be happy. Social media even gets you post a post. How many people liked my post today? They judge how popular are by how well they're liked. All these things are temptations created to distract you and to get your attention. Just real quick, did the sound get back on? Thank you. There's a movie, and my kids and we've watched it, and I know, Matt, you've seen it. But in this movie called Up, there's a dog, and his name is called Doug. Doug is constantly being distracted. Squirrel! He's in the middle of talking, and he'll go, squirrel! And point his nose. He gets constantly distracted when he senses there's a squirrel nearby. It's really quite funny. Doesn't matter who you are, distractions are going to try to get your attention. They're going to do what they can. And don't think just because you walk in the doors of a church, do you know even inside the doors of a church there are distractions? You can look and say, oh my goodness, there's nobody here. That'll get your distraction away from focusing on what God's called you to do. You can have someone who is, I'm not saying, you could have somebody who comes in and maybe they talk all the right words, but they might be a distraction. Doesn't matter. Distractions are all around you. So you remember I said there's a way to fight distraction? The way to fight distraction is to get your focus right. It's a battle that every day we will face. And you know what? Jesus showed us we can win in the fight even when he was tempted. 1 Corinthians 10:13 also says this. There is no temptation that has overtaken you except what is common to man. Gave you the wrong one, Joshua. That you have 2 Corinthians and you don't have 1 Corinthians. God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able. But with the temptation will also be made a way of escape that you may be able to bear it. You can't say the devil made me do it. You always have a choice. The way out is that we have to focus on God. Do you know what? You can be distracted by what you see. The writer of Proverbs says this in Proverbs 4:25 through 27. Let your eyes look straight ahead and your eyelids look right before you. Ponder the path of your feet and let your ways be established. Do not turn to the right or the left. Remove your foot from evil. When we look around, we take our eyes off of Jesus. Do you remember what happened to Peter when he looked around? He sunk. Let me tell you also this. How many of you have ever, when you were in school, ever ran a race? Now, one of the things they teach you is when you're running, what not to do. One specific thing don't do. Don't look back. Don't look to see how far ahead of. Because what happens when you start turning around? Your body shifts and your feet go off one way or the other. It will slow you down. One of the things I remember when I don't remember how old I was, but I remember reading in a book. And down here, I don't know how many of you guys have ever experienced snow. But one of the things we used to do is when we'd have we had a big, huge field out behind our house, and we would see who could make the straightest line. Now, you would think maybe if I put one foot in front of the other, nah. What you do is you stand with your back against the fence and just walk to the other. When you find a point on the fence directly in front of you, and you keep your eyes on that point. And when you do, you will have the straightest line. Why? because your eyes were fixed on what's ahead and not what's around you. 1 Corinthians 9:24-27 says this. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may obtain it. And everyone who competes for the prize is temperate in all things. Now, they do it to obtain a perishable crown, but we for an imperishable crown. Therefore, run thus, not with uncertainty. Thus I fight, not as one who beats the air, but I discipline my body and bring it into subjection, lest when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified. When you're running, you have to have, it's one of Matt's favorite words to Joshua, discipline. It will take work. It will take self-control, and it will not happen overnight or in an instant. Runners spend a lot of time running and preparing for a race. I had a friend once who would run in marathons. And he would run in the gym on the treadmill. He said, that's good and all, and that gets up your stamina. He says, but where you really have to practice is out in the open. He says, because the terrain changes. You also have to get used to the fact that there are things around you that can distract you. There are things that we're running in a Christian life that will distract us. The world has all kinds of things. When you look around you, you're going to see what others have and maybe what you don't have. Well, they're doing better than I am, and I know I don't make more money. I know they don't make more money than I do. Get your focus off of God. 1 John 2:15 says, do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. We have two things that cause us to get distracted. One is what our eyes see, and then what our mind thinks. We look around and see so many things that others want and have, and so then we start to get worried. We let the worry seep into our mind. We worry about our food. We worry about what we're going to wear. We even worry about money. You guys know this one in Matthew 6:31-34. Therefore, do not worry, saying, what are we going to eat? What are we going to drink? Or what do we wear? For all these things the Gentile seeks. For your heavenly Father knows what you need. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. You've heard the term borrowing trouble. Don't borrow trouble. 1 Timothy 6:7-10 also says this. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we carry nothing out. And having food and clothing, with these things we shall be content. Those who desire to be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and harmful lusts, which drowns men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, which some have strayed from their faith in greediness and pierced themselves through with sorrows. But you, man of God, flee these things and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, and gentleness. I'm not saying money is bad, because you read what it said. It says the love of money. You guys remember the smartest guy in the Bible? Smartest guy ever was Solomon. He had everything, and guess what he knew? He knew that money wouldn't solve it. In Ecclesiastes 5:10, he says, he who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. This is also vanity. Because you notice when you get more, you end up wanting more. You're not content. Jesus said the love of money is not the solution. Matthew 6:24, he goes on to say that no one can serve two masters. For either he will either hate one and love the other, or he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. You can't do both. I'm not saying you can't ask God for money, because I'm sorry, I can't live in my house unless I have it to meet my bills. But I'm saying the love of that can get your focus off of God. And when you get your focus off of God, what does your mind start to do? It starts to worry. We get distracted. So what do we need to do? We need to change our thinking. Romans 12:2 says this, do not be conformed to the world, but be transformed by how? Renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Even King David said this in Psalms 19:14, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Psalm 119:15, he says, I will meditate on your precepts and contemplate your ways. Got one more, Josh. Colossians 3:1-2 says, if then you were raised with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ is sitting at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things above and not on things on the earth. When we change our thinking to focus on God, it changes the distractions. My children have been having a lot of issues with focusing on their work. This last year, they were focusing more on playing and not doing their work. And now they have 2 weeks now till school starts. And I found out how far behind they were. So I said, now you're going to eat and sleep homework. That's it. You don't get to do anything else right now. You're behind. This what must be done. Sorry, Josh, I have to bring this out because it was hilarious. Josh was in his room working. And he goes, Mom, I have to do it, Josh. I'm sorry. He goes, Mom, I'm stuck in these handcuffs. I'm like, and I'm at the same, I think I was making lunch. And I said, Joshua, I didn't even turn around. I said, how in the world are you stuck in handcuffs if you're at your desk doing your homework, focusing on your math? But Mom, I'm stuck. I can't get out. Joshua, you are distracted and you are not being focused. Never mind, I got it. He goes back to his room. All week long, I had been telling him, sit out in the family room so I can work with you. Sit out in the family room so I can help you. Was it Friday, Joshua, you said, I'm going to come out and sit in the family room, Mom, and do my math. And do you know he got his math done in half an hour instead of taking it to 2-3 hours that he was doing it before? Did the math change? No. What changed? His focus. We got rid of the distractions, and I was there to keep him on track. Took him less time because he wasn't distracted. The other way that you can keep your focus is get into the Word daily. You need to read it, and not just read it, because if you read it, it's like looking in the mirror at your dirty face and walking away and not cleaning your dirty face. You need to let it change your mind and change your actions. Joshua 1:8. This is why Joshua, when he went into the land with Caleb, was able to look at what was there and say, oh, it's good, let's do this. Because this is what he said to the people in 1:8. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth. You shall meditate in it day and night, so that you may observe to do what is according to all that is written in it, for you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. He goes on to say in Joshua 23:6, therefore, be courageous to keep and do all that is written in the book of the law of Moses, lest you turn aside from it to the right hand or to the left. He says, don't go this way, don't go that way, go straight ahead. Go straight ahead. Now, do you remember there was a parable that Jesus talked about this? It's the parable of the sower. And one of them was in it's Luke 8, verse 14. And it says, there are ones that fell among the thorns. And those are who, when they heard, they go out and are choked with the cares, riches, and pleasures of life, and they bring no fruit to maturity. But the ones on the good ground are those who, having heard the word, with noble and good heart, keep it and bear fruit with patience. So my question is, are you listening to the word and letting it change you? Or are you just reading it and going out of there? One of the things with the kids that I have to do is they have to read a chapter in their social studies. When they finish the chapter, they're supposed to go and take a test. Now the question is, are they just reading to read it to get it over and done with? Or are they reading it to understand? Because if they don't understand it, I make them go back and read it again. Well, Cece had a hard time, and she has a chapter she's got to go back and reread. Because she has to read with understanding. Because if you don't read it with understanding and you don't read it to change your life, it doesn't do you any good. So you change your thoughts, you get into the Word, and one of the other things you need to do is put on the armor of God. You can go into battle, but unless you're prepared for it, what's going to happen? Ephesians 6, verse 11 and 12 says, "Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." You're not putting on physical armor. You're getting your mind ready and to go into battle. Because where we fight against is where you can't see. You got to be ready to do that. You need some help? Guess what? We can look at those who have gone before and follow them, especially the example of Jesus. Hebrews 12, verse 1 and 2 says, "Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, let's lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run," there's that run again, "with endurance, the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." I want to tell you one thing. One of the things when you're running, you don't carry everything with you. You want as little on you as possible. But sometimes when we're doing things, we're trying to carry everything with us. I don't know if it was last week in my sermon, but sometimes they've said that when women pack, sometimes they pack all the stuff and it's only for like one day. When you're running, you're not going to carry all this stuff with you, are you? Sometimes there are things that distract you that you need to just let go. Because let me tell you something about those treasures that you're hanging on to. They're not going to last. Things on this earth, they don't last. They will only distract you from focusing on God. Matthew 6, 19 through 21 says this, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." You got to get your mind and your heart in the right spot. Because let me tell you, when you get your heart and your mind into focusing on God, guess what we call that? We call that submitting to the Father. Because James 4:7 says this, "Therefore submit to God, then resist the devil and he will flee." Because when you submit to him and do what he wants, then when you resist him, he has to flee. Do you remember the temptation of Jesus? 40 days he submitted himself to God. And when Satan came to tempt him, guess what happened? He was able to say, "Nope, I'm done. Be gone." And he had to leave. Maybe you've been distracted by all the things around you. Maybe your focus is on the wrong thing. Change your thought life, you change your focus. And a distraction only has power when you pay attention to it. Joshua was playing with plastic handcuffs because he was focused on that. When he took his focus off those handcuffs and focused on his math book, guess what he got done? He got his math done. It can be difficult to do, but you know what? Focusing on God. Joshua was happy when he got his math done. He's like, "Man, that didn't take me long." And I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "This is what I'm expecting of you." So he was going to do his math in his room yesterday. I said, What happens when you... He goes, "Oh, yeah. Sometimes you have to be reminded that your focus needs to be not here, but here. Don't turn to the right or to the left. Are you focused or distracted? Are you looking around like Peter did, or are you looking up? Do you need to change your thinking? If you need these things, guess what? Jesus will help you. The Holy Spirit will help you. God will never leave you. Hebrews 13:5 says, let your conduct be without covetousness, without wanting. Be content with such things as you have. For he himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. God, may my focus be on you in the midst of all that life throws at me and all the things that are going around. May I focus on you. Sometimes we may not even know our focus is the wrong way. I have a book that one of my favorite authors is Tolkien. And there is a book called The Hobbit. The dwarves are having to go through this forest. And Gandalf told them, he says, stay on the path. Do not get off the path. You won't find it again. Guess what happened? They got distracted by the things that were around them and got off the path. And they got in trouble. Eventually they got out. But sometimes we get distracted. And the little hobbit that was with him, his name was Bilbo, he climbed up a tree and saw the direction they were to go. And when he came back down, that's when the trouble started. They'd gotten taken. But sometimes you need someone to come along and say, hey, you've been distracted. You need to get your focus. And one of the things I teach my children, and they get mad sometimes when they get corrected, it's one of my favorite ones, and it's in Proverbs. It says, he who loves correction loves knowledge, but he who hates discipline, see? What's the last half? Is stupid. And if you don't believe me, you can look it up. It literally says you're stupid if you're not going to listen to discipline. Who of you likes to be disciplined or corrected? No one does. Sometimes it makes you feel bad. The goal is not to make you feel bad, but the goal is to change your behavior, to change the way you are doing something. God wants to change your focus, to make sure you're focusing on him. Because we can get distracted, and you can look around. But God says, you know what? If you're following me and you're not distracted, I got great things for you. Now, do you remember in Hebrews where it talked about the great cloud of witnesses? A lot of them didn't get their promise here on earth, did they? But they knew it was coming. You think about all the people who were before Jesus. He had promised the Messiah. They never got to see him. But you guess what? He came. And just so you know, he made a promise he's coming back. Don't get distracted by what you see. Because God already told us, Jesus put in there, he says, this stuff's all going to happen. You look around, you see all the things happening. Guess what? He said, it's already going to happen. It's going to happen. He says, but don't fear. He says, I'm with you. He's never going to leave you. He's never going to go away. Does that mean life's going to be great? No, may not. Things are going to happen. Bad things still happen in this world until Jesus comes back. But where is your focus? Where is your focus? When you keep your eyes on him, you can walk on the water. Even when everything around seems like it's sinking. We sing that song, A Firm Foundation. I fix my eyes on Jesus. He's never let me down. Keep your eyes on him, because the enemy's going to come with that. So the next week we're going to talk about the lies and the truth. And then the third week we're going to talk about discouragement and hope. Because the enemy is going to keep coming at you with distractions. Father, I pray that as we go this week, Lord, if we're distracted, help us to remember to focus on you. Lord, help us to know that by getting into your word and learning and getting that in our heart, not just in our head, but in our heart, it will help us with our focus. Lord, help us to follow your example. And Lord, if there's someone out there who says, man, I've never heard this, I want to be focused on Jesus. All you got to do is say, God, I accept you. I accept the fact that Jesus died on the cross for my sin. Come into my life and be the boss. Help me to focus on you. Lord, help us as we go. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. I know that sometimes our focus can be on